Welcome back. Today we're going to talk bees. I'm Corinne Phillips, and this is Fresh Pea Cooks. Welcome back. Many of you have been asking about the bees, so today I'm going to show you an update on what's happened with my swarm. Bees pollinate most of our foods, a good majority of our fruits and vegetables, and they're really vital to our healthy ecosystem. So I started keeping bees not as a means of honey, but mainly as habitat for pollinators. As an organic gardener, it's very important that we have adequate, safe environments for our bees. So I brought in 2 hives about 5 or 6 years ago, and the only harvest that I do out of my bees is when the colony collapses after a winter. But today I want to show you just one of the very few kind of invasive things that I do during the summer to ensure that my bees have adequate nest space. Now this hive was a swarm that I caught about 6 or 7 weeks ago. Ideally, I should have put another super box, which is the box on top, giving the bees more space. I should have supered the hive maybe 2.5 weeks ago at the first signs where I noticed that they were outgrowing their box, which was at night. They start sleeping outside of their box, meaning there's just not enough space inside the hive. However, I didn't because our weather was well into the 100-degree range, and that's just too hot to get in there and start messing around with the bees. I could have done it early morning, but mornings for me are kind of sacred, so that didn't happen. But today it's overcast, it's cool, it's a perfect day to get in, and I want to show you guys what it looks like inside this hive box. Many of you saw the electrification of my hive after the bear attack. So first things first, I'm going to turn off the electric fence, which so far has been good for us and has worked well. And then I'm going to remove the feeder, that little yellow thing you see there. I stopped feeding the bees after about 4 weeks. So I'm going to pull that out, and we're going to add a new super on top of the bee box. So right now there's 2 medium supers, and I'm going to add a 3rd one. This is going to give them more space to grow and to fill up with honey to prepare them for the winter stores. Now, watching the bees for a little while, I see tons and tons of pollen baskets filled up. Pollen baskets are natural little pockets that the bees have on the back of their knees, and they fill them with pollen. The bees put pollen in the base of the honeycomb. They lay their larvae, or they fill honey on top of it. And so pollen is an integral part of the nectar collecting process. There's still a lot of pollen coming in, so it's a perfect time to add more space. Many beekeepers smoke their bees, meaning they take a smoker, they fill it up with some combustible pine needles or whatever you have, and they smoke around the perimeter and into the hive. Smoke is a warning, an alarm signal for the bees, so it causes the bees to go back into the hive, so you can work on the hive without doing so much destruction and potentially smushing bees. I don't like to do that because I don't want my bees to associate me with a forest fire. I want them to kind of be able to build a little bit of trust and kind of get used to me without me being the harbinger of, fear and terror. So I don't know that bees feel fear and terror, but they definitely move away from the smoke. And so I'm going to go in today, I'm going to suit up and go in without smoke and see if I can minimize, the invasiveness of my kind of exploration in there. I'm going to be pulling out frames. I'm going to be looking for signs of disease, which are deformed wings, mites, any sort of visible signs that the colony maybe has a mite problem. Now, mites are something that we have in North America, and all beehives have them. You just want to mitigate them, and there are natural steps and ways to mitigate and reduce mite impact especially going into fall and winter. Okay, enough chatting. Let's get started. Now to crack the hive, I use what's called a hive tool. It's just a little metal pry bar. And the bees, they use a substance, they create a substance called propolis. And propolis is like the stickiest glue you've ever used. And it just seals up all the cracks and makes their home very water and airtight. Now when working with bees, you want to speak quietly and calmly, and you want to move slowly and very deliberately. When you're calm, the bees remain calm. They've really glued this lid down with a lot of propolis. It's really sticky. A couple of bees coming over to check me out. I was originally going to take out one of these middle frames, but they've drawn some of the frames together here. I don't know if it goes all the way down. It's so beautiful in there, and it's just so full of honey, and the hive appears to be thriving. The bees that I see on top are perfectly formed. I don't see an excess of mites. Varroa mites are visible to the naked eye. They're little red mites. The bees are really calm, and the colony is absolutely thriving. Look at you ladies. There's a baby one, and there's a tiny guy. Yeah, I'm not going to mess with these guys as a wild swarm. They're survivors. I'm just going to give them another box. Add another layer. Doesn't look like there are any bees along the perimeter. Let's put my box on. Line it up. Normally when I add a super, I would do what's called checkerboarding, where you take a full frame from the super below and you bring it up and you leave an empty frame and you change the empty frame in the frame below. So that gives them more room for growth, and they can easily move up into the third box. Now here, what I run the risk of is something called honey bound, where they are so used to these two boxes and they're so filled up that they don't go upward. Now, in this case, and this is just something that I'm going to roll with, I don't know if it's instincts or ignorance, but in this case, there are so many bees in the bottom two boxes, and it is so crowded. There's nowhere for them to go but up. I'm going to run the risk of that, and I'm going to pop back into the hive in another 2 weeks and just check. If they haven't built out any of the comb, or they haven't stored any honey in the top box, then I will know for sure that indeed they are honey bound, and I will have to go back into the middle box and checkerboard it and bring some of those frames up to the top. Now when I lay this down, there's a little bit of wax that they've built out. I'll lay it down really lightly and lightly lift it up just a couple times to let any of those bees that got trapped between the wax and the top frames to escape. This was such a great colony to find. They are so strong. They've built out perfect, beautiful comb. They've filled their hive with honey, and they're really efficient foragers. And you can see the mature bees, the foragers, flying in with just their leg baskets, their pollen baskets, just loaded with pollen. And interestingly, I'm seeing white pollen and I'm seeing yellow pollen. At different times of the year, depending on what's in bloom, you'll see red, orange, various colors of yellow, orange. I've seen blue, and I've actually gone into my hive and found complete cells full of this vibrant blue pollen. But right now I'm seeing mainly white. I know the wild lilacs are in bloom, as are the mock orange. And I believe both of those have white pollen. I can just sit here for hours and watch these little ladies. And what's equally fun for me is being in the garden and after getting beehives, seeing an absolute influx of honeybees now pollinating my garden. This is my non-invasive or minimally invasive style of beekeeping, and maybe you've learned something, maybe you have suggestions for me. Leave them in the comments below. And if you'd like to see more beekeeping videos in the future, let me know that as well. I'm going to get in here in about 2 weeks and check on the development in the top super. Thank you for being out here with me at the bee shed. It's really wonderful to see the progress that these ladies have made in just such a short amount of time. They're fascinating creatures, and when we stop and take pause and we see the majesty of nature all around us, it's really quite remarkable. So thank you for being here. If you aren't a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. I post videos weekly, and it's just kind of whatever I'm doing. You never know. Sometimes I'm in the kitchen, sometimes I'm in the yard, sometimes I'm out playing. So thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for being here. And if you like the video, hit the thumbs up. I'll see you guys next time.